hey y'all. In true teacher fashion, I'm going to ask you to raise your hands for me if you are between the ages of 18 and 29. Yep, okay, I figured that many of you would be raising your hands. Don't worry, those of you who didn't raise your hands, like, you'll probably have an opportunity to say, yes, like, I am not a Generation Y. Awesome, I don't belong in that category. So I want to start discussing our generation. And when I say our, I mean for those of you who raised your hands, and myself, of course, because I fit in that age group. And this generation is technically called Generation Y. I'm really proud to be a Generation Yer, and I want to start with that because some of the things I'm going to say may not be the most proud moments in the history of Generation Y. Time magazine recently published an article about Generation Y, the me generation. I don't know if you see this, it calls us millennials are lazy, entitled narcissists who still live with their parents. Thank you, great. Awesome. It says they'll save us all, but we're lazy, entitled narcissists who live with our parents. Great. Some people also call us the Peter Pan generation because we never want to grow up and we don't want to leave home. We just want to be young all the time. Research is really talking about us. And the reason is we're joining the workforce. We're starting to do all these things for our communities, and they want to know more about us. These are the 3 words that we're seeing the most in research about Generation Yers. We're narcissistic, we're miserable, and we're tolerant. So, like, that's okay, that's not so bad. At least there's that, right? So I want to talk a little bit about, like, how your school life, how your teachers, me as a teacher, and how your parents help encourage these things in you. First of all, they taught us to have self-esteem in school. I don't know if any of you remember your teachers being like, you're amazing, you're awesome, you're you, and that's it, right? Like, that's all you were told, that you were great, and for no apparent reason. Not because you did awesome on a math test. Just, like, accept yourself for who you are because you're you. Cool. So we were told that we're awesome, so of course we think we're awesome. No wonder we're narcissists. Like, it's no wonder. Our teachers also taught us as individuals. We were taught that, like, we were going to pass the test, that it was all about me, and not just that, but also that just participating was enough. I don't know if any of you remember getting awards just for participating. Little ribbon. You didn't win the science fair, but you participated. Good job. I'm so proud of you. And in true Generation Y fashion, I'm going to show you something that my mom found. This is awesome. In middle school, I won an award for the best personality. This didn't have anything to do with the fact that I had, like, the highest math score on a standardized test. It was like, Richel is the best personality, great. She's an individual. And so it's no wonder that we're miserable because we're taught I can do it. We were never given an opportunity to fail because participating was enough. And that's why at record rates, we need drugs to help us overcome these, like, this misery that we're thinking about all the time. So tolerant, you're like, oh, thank God, Richel's finally talking about something awesome about our generation. Woo! Oh, yeah. So we were taught to be tolerant, and there's a couple reasons why. First is we are the most diverse generation in our nation's history, which is pretty cool. Also, our teachers taught us about the American dream and the fact that America is a, quote, melting pot. I don't know if anyone's seen this episode of Schoolhouse Rock. It's like a bunch of people dancing and jumping into this hot pot, which sounds really terrible. But our teachers told us that we're individuals, that we're awesome, and it doesn't matter what we look like. It doesn't matter what religion we believe in. Like, we're great. So we grew up thinking, okay, everyone's great. Like, that person's great, I'm great. I think the other reason why we're so tolerant is because media really impacted us a lot more than previous generations. We got to see shows like Will and Grace, like LGBT individuals on TV actually talking about these topics. And so, like, that definitely encouraged us to be more tolerant. There's some changes happening in education, though. And these are definitely changes I see as a teacher in the Rio Grande Valley that I think will help move us away from some of these traits that we're maybe not so proud of. The first is this word grit. And this is the first thing I teach any of my students. You can ask any of them the definition of this word. It is to never give up in a difficult situation. So Paul Tough, in his research for a book called How Children Succeed, studied high-income and low-income schools and found that a lot of parents don't want their kids to struggle, that they don't want their kids to not succeed. But the problem with that is children learn best when they struggle. Children learn to become critical thinkers when they have an opportunity to come against something that may mean they're going to fail. That's where learning happens for us, and that's where learning happens for kids. So the change needs to happen. We don't need to tell kids, like, you're awesome, you can do it, but here's a participation award. Like, no, actually, you might be really bad at math, but here's an opportunity for you to try, and let's talk about, like, why you did poorly. Second is being hopeful. So, like, we're really miserable because we're individuals, because we think about ourselves a lot. But Duncan Andrade, in his Note to Educators, which is centered all around Tupac's, one of my favorite Tupacs, like Rose in a Concrete. I don't know if any of you know that. It's really awesome. He talks a lot about, like, this fact that when we're individuals, we only think about success and failure in our own terms. But if we participate in micro ecosystems together in classrooms, together in communities, then we're more likely to be hopeful and really, truly hopeful because we're sharing in each other's victories and in each other's struggles. And last is becoming advocates. So some of you are like, yay, we're tolerant. Like, that's not good enough. Like, it's not good enough to be like, okay, that person's cool no matter what they believe in, no matter what they look like. People are being oppressed in our country for all sorts of things. And there we go. Sorry, Paulo Freire, in his Pedagogy of the Oppressed, says that just to like say it's not okay that these people are oppressed isn't good enough, right? Like, it's a farce to say, I believe that everyone should be equal, and then only post something on Twitter. Like, we actually need to advocate for people who are being oppressed. And children who have an opportunity to learn about the oppression that's happening in their society and talk about it in a classroom truly become advocates later on. So yours, ours. Like, our generation, we're used to talking about ours in terms of, like, you. Why do we need to talk about ours? And better yet, like, why does this matter to you? Like, you don't want to be a teacher, maybe. Middle schoolers are fun, but you don't really want to think about parenting if you're 18 to 29. I don't know. Maybe some of you do. I know I don't. So, like, why does this matter to you? And here's my quintessential picture of Westminster's Converse Hall. Everyone's had one of these. I feel really excited about that. This matters because you're a member of the Westminster community, and we are lifelong learners. So you are students, and you are teachers. And not only that, but I think you would agree that being considered narcissistic and tolerant and all of these things that people are saying about generation me, that's not something I want to be a part of. Like, I want to go beyond that. I want to be better than that as a generation Y'er. So I want to learn how to have grit. I want to learn how to be audaciously hopeful and how to be an advocate, not just to be tolerant of people. And I've had that opportunity as a member of Teach for America's movement. One day, all children in this nation will have an opportunity to attain an excellent education. I am not here to try to recruit anybody to Teach for America. You're like, whew, thank God. No, I am here to encourage you to find a community in which you can learn to have grit. I would argue you could do that here at Westminster. Take a class in a subject that is really going to suck for you. Like, take physics because you don't know anything about it, because I would have been really bad in Chris Klein's physics class. But do it because it's an opportunity for you to learn via your struggles and via failure. And be hopeful. Like, don't be miserable. Don't be thinking about yourself all the time. Find an area in the community of Westminster where you can truly experience struggle and success with someone else. I think a great opportunity for that would be via the Rape Recovery Center. I think Nicole talked about that, and that's an incredible opportunity for this. And lastly, don't just be tolerant. You know, don't just, like, be okay with your neighbor sitting next to you no matter what they believe in, no matter what they think about. Like, find somewhere, some way that you can join a movement, whether it's a movement for education and equity for students in low-income communities, or whether it's a movement for neuroscience, thank you, Chrono, like find a movement, immerse yourself in it. Don't just say you believe in it, but actually do something about it. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time.